Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. It is February 24th here along the Texas upper southeast coast, south of Houston, and our last frost date was this week. So that does bring a lot of excitement to gardeners when you do hit your last frost date. But what really brings excitement is when you look at the 2-week forecast and there is no chance of freezing weather or frost. And so that really brings the spring fever in. So today's video is going to be fairly short, but it entails a lot of work that needs to be done in spring to get ready, our gardens ready. And one of the things that I wanted to share with you is I have 3 very large pots of tropical hibiscus. And during our freeze in January, we got down to 19 degrees here. That's what my outdoor sensor showed anyway. But I had wrapped these in frost cloth all together and all the way down to the ground, and I wrapped them 4 times. And if I don't do that, tropical hibiscus is very sensitive and I lose them. But I wanted to show you what it looks like in the spring, and my efforts were definitely worth it. So as you can see, it is starting to leaf out. And it's leafing out all along the plants. Right now is the perfect time to prune tropical hibiscus, and so this was taller, some damage at the top, and so I pruned the tops of these, and now I'm going to be fertilizing soonish, and the plants are just starting to come to life. So even though we did get down very cold, having them wrapped all together into the ground made a difference. My pruning for spring, I try to get it done around this time. This is the time where the plants are starting to come out of dormancy here. And I want to make sure that I'm doing it at this optimal time. There are a lot of plants that I still need to go around and prune back, trim up, and get ready for spring. I've pruned back all of my salvia, and it has really come to life. This one happens to be Mystic Spires. It's starting to get blooms. I have this in a container, but I didn't want to cut back until the last frost date passed. Because I didn't want any damage if there was a frost. One of the things with salvia is if water does get into the stems, it can split the stems and down at the crown of your plant. And so it's pretty important not to prune back too soon. This plant is a sparkling amethyst superbena. The reason I wanted to show it to you at this point in time is because it is starting to get little buds on it. The reason this was interesting to me is I had planted this last year in this container, and a squirrel got up in the container towards the end of last fall and dug up this plant to where it was just hanging over and almost dead. And so what I did is it had divided it also. This piece broke off. And fascinatingly enough, I put it back into the soil and it is growing gorgeously. I'm going to be putting a plant here to finish off this container, but this is my spiller. Kind of fills in and is a spiller. And let me show you the blooms on this. How gorgeous are these? I love sparkling amethyst, the Superbena. The butterflies absolutely love this particular plant. Let me pull the tag here. This plant doesn't get tall. You'll see here it says 6 to 12 inches in full to part sun. So I do like it in containers because it will spill over, and I love that look. I am going to plant some of this in the landscape though, because I just think it's a really pretty flower. It does say that the habit is mounding and trailing. I have found that it does more trailing than mounding. And it does bloom all summer long. It goes down to zone 8A. I did protect mine, and I brought in the container during our freeze. So I'm not sure how this would do in the landscape. My guess it would come back. It's also time to prune back the butterfly bushes. I should have taken this off a little bit more. I just didn't. I could certainly bring this down farther, but I've already got quite a bit of growth, and so I decided I did bring a lot of it down and off, so we'll see what this growth looks like for this year. But there's a lot of new growth starting, and so we'll see how this fares this year. I mentioned that I have cut back all of my salvia, which I have done. And the salvia that is in what I call my tree bed, I have Amante and also Amistad. I did lose one Amistad plant in our very brutal summer, and I did replace it. So this is the replacement plant. So it is smaller and a little bit taller. This plant comes back for me in our zone. I'm in a zone 9B. It comes back very, very beautifully, even in our freezes. And so I mentioned that I did not cut back this salvia until just this recent week. And the reason is their stems are fairly hollow. And if water gets down in here and it freezes, it will actually hurt the crown of the plant, more than likely kill it. And so I do not cut back my salvia until the chance of freezing is gone. What's crazy about this is it's just a gorgeous plant. As you know, I love salvia, and in particular, I love Amistad and Amante. I am going to have to move this though, because this one is actually growing between the brick, and so I do want to save it. I think this is Amante, and it's a beautiful pink flower, and so I want to save that. But I've done all of the pruning here in this bed, and my Salvia leucantha I probably could have cut back a little more. You can see I need to come through and pull these sticks out, because the Salvia leucantha is also starting to poke through. One of the things that I do in the springtime is I do stage my plants in the tree bed, because this bed receives the most amount of sun in my backyard. it is a full sun area. And so I like to give them, get them acclimated, get them started. And that's why you see I have plants all along the edging that I'm going to be planting in various places in my garden. And just that'll happen over the next few weeks. So it's not going to go here, but I do have them staged here. Another staple in my garden is mounding lantana. And once I see that I'm starting to get new growth, which I'm seeing, then I come in and also cut back. So I don't necessarily cut back the plants that haven't started to come back. I'll cut them back once I start seeing the new growth. And so right now the garden is coming to life and I'm starting to see that new growth. And so I've also cut back the mounding lantana. Lantana is a mainstay in my garden. Butterflies, hummingbirds, pollinators love it. And if you're considering lantana, I highly recommend getting the mounding lantana. You'll notice this structure on a mounding lantana. It doesn't create a vase like a sprawling lantana does. Let me show you one. Ooh, look at this pot. All the little trees in here. I've got to get out here and get these out of here. But you'll notice this has more of a shape where it grows outward. See that? The crown, and it just grows outward. I call these sprawling lantanas because this is what the norm is for this type, for a normal lantana that's not mounding. And it can grow so unruly. And if it's in the landscape, it can grow 4, 5, 6 feet wide. And I don't prefer that. I really prefer the mounding type. So don't look at the green. Those are little elm trees that are in here. But if you look at how the structure is, that's the difference between the types of lantana. The flame acanthus is also just starting to bud out, and this is an ideal time to cut this back as far as I want to get it a little bit tidier. And so in the next few days or so, maybe up to a week or so, I would like to be cutting all of my flame acanthus here in the front row of the trellis bed, as it is starting to come to life. And this is, you can really cut this back at any time, but when it is just starting to put on new growth, this is one of the better times to do it, in the spring. I have a lot of work that still needs to be done, but that's the fun about gardening, right? Even though there's a lot of work, there's a lot of joy and a lot of reward that comes with it. In my shade bed, my salvia is starting to come up, the salvia madrensis, and you can see I don't have that cut back yet, so I need to be doing that. I've got a lot of cut back and pruning that I still need to do, that I just haven't been able to accomplish yet, because our days of 70-degree weather have really brought the garden to life, and so there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I've had caterpillar chrysalises in my cardinal climber vine. This is an annual. I will be pulling this down. I have not done that yet because I do want all the chrysalises to be able to come forth. Oh, so in the next week or so, I will be planting cardinal climber. And I do plant the cardinal climber in ground from seed every year. And so I need to get the dead vines down. but I'm still going to be waiting just a little bit to make sure all the chrysalises have had a chance to open. What are some of the first things that you do in your garden in the spring? Mine is clean out and cutting back, sometimes down to the ground, other times where I want to control the plant. But there's a lot of work in spring. What do you typically tackle first? Well, thanks for joining me. I hope you all have a great day today. And I hope to see you soon.